As we enter this new year and decade, let's ponder the most important question. What would you do if a bunch of alien dragons came to Earth and started to destroy all of our biggest cities? If you're Stanley and Sydney, then you'd take matters into your own hands and skydive to the stratosphere trying to kill every last monster. That's the setup for the new game EarthNight from Clearversoft, a runner that sees two incredible heroes race across the backs of serpents in a mad dash to slam a knife into their giant eyeballs. I'm not sure that's what I would have done, but as they say, desperate times call for desperate measures. Stanley and Sydney don't know each other. They aren't family members or friends, but rather two regular people thrust into an extraordinary situation when they decide to fight back after seeing their planet torn apart. They do this by jumping out of a spaceship and skydiving onto one of the hundreds of dragons making their way to Earth. The goal is to run from tail to head, dodging enemies and picking up rare treasure. If you can make it to the head, then you'll plunge your trusty knife into the monster's eye and then jump off and do the whole thing all over again. The tricky part about EarthNight is that you don't have a whole lot of control over the action. The game is always pushing us forward whether we like it or not, so a lot of the job boils down to jumping on platforms and bouncing off the heads of the various enemies. Those platforms usually lead to rare items and eggs that'll make defeating the creatures a lot easier. You'll find that getting to the head is only part of the job, and killing it is not always a guarantee. Our heroes only have a short amount of time to stab the beast to death, so it's important to find the hidden eggs in order to make each hit more powerful. Now, a lot of the game comes down to replaying it over and over in order to not only take down the different colored dragons, but also collect enough money to buy items and upgrades back at the spaceship. These pickups will line the levels and give our heroes special abilities like an extra jump, a protective bubble, and a way to grow really big. You'll find items that pixelate the level, turn it into black and white, and make everything go faster. Unlocking and using these items is crucial to your survival, especially when it comes to the later stages. This is a difficult game, even with the extra power-ups. Although the gameplay remains the same, Sydney and Stanley tackle the job a little differently. Sydney comes with a double jump by default, making it easier for her to locate the hard-to-reach eggs and items. Stanley, on the other hand, is a better fighter who has an easier time battling the bad guys. Although she comes with more of a learning curve, I found that I preferred the mobility of Sydney. This is the type of game where a double and sometimes triple jump will come in handy almost every time, especially when it comes to dodging enemies and picking up the items you need to survive. Unfortunately, that's also one of the problems I have with EarthNight. Not only do you have the stage constantly pushing you forward, but there are enemies everywhere and limited ways to attack. I had a hard time finding a rhythm to the action and always felt like I was straying away from the right path. And because the stages are so big and hectic, I would constantly race by the eggs and items needed to slay the dragon. I don't know if it's because the camera is zoomed in too close to the character, or that neither Stanley nor Sydney have the right set of moves to get around, but I found traversing the stages to be a little frustrating. I'm also not a big fan of the boss fights. You would think that all you'd need to do is mash the buttons really fast to kill the dragon, but it's more complicated than that. Sometimes you'll want to wait a few beats before stabbing them in the eye, while other times it's all about that button mashing that I just mentioned. It's never really clear what the right strategy is going to be, and you don't have a whole lot of time to figure it out, leading to a lot of really annoying boss battles. On a brighter note, I'm a big fan of the art style. I like the way the characters and dragons look like they were painted by hand. The backgrounds are filled with flying serpents and other details that highlight just how outnumbered we are in this war. From the skydiving to the boss fights, there's not a moment in this game that didn't impress me on an aesthetic level. I just wish the rest of the game was as good as the visuals. EarthNight is a fun yet flawed runner with great graphics and a cool theme. It's easy to root for Stanley and Sydney as they go up against a whole army of alien dragons. Sadly, this platformer is marred by repetitive action and stiff gameplay, as well as inconsistent boss fights and levels that are often difficult to traverse. But even with these faults, I found that EarthNight had enough hooks to keep me coming back until every last dragon was vanquished. That's certainly not what I expected to be doing when we started 2020. Hey, thanks for watching our review. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new reviews and features almost every day. Now here's the question I have for you. What would you do if kaiju monsters attacked? I mean, how many of you are gonna jump out of a spaceship like Stanley and Sydney? Can't wait to see your thoughts in the comments below. In other news, I'm currently hard at work on reviews of 7th Sector, Black Sad, and more. We'll also be taking a look at the future of Electronic Gaming Monthly's best and worst series in the coming days. So, you won't want to miss that. In the meantime, I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.